Today we'll be continuing reading from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 29. It's how it talks between Narada and King Vahi. And we'll be covering verse 51 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya
Rayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Ram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudiyarayat
Sojaya Mudiraya.
Nashtapreshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Yam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttam Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama-shloke.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Okay, text 81. Savaya Priyatamaschatma
Savaya Priyatma-shloke.
Yato na bhayam manvati
Yatanavayam-bhakti.
Iti vera savaya vidwan
Ivera Savaya-vidvan.
Yo vidwan sagurur hari
Yo-vidvan Sagura-hari.
Savaya Priyatamaschatma
Savaya Priyatma-shloke.
Yato na bhayam anvapi
Yatanavayam-bhakti.
Iti veda savaya vidwan
Ivera Savaya-vidvan.
Yo vidwan sagurur hari
Yo-vidvan Sagura-hari.
Savaya Priyatamaschatma
Savaya Priyatma-shloke.
Yato na bhayam anvapi
Yatanavayam-bhakti.
Iti veda savaya vidwan
Ivera Savaya-vidvan.
Yo vidwan sagurur hari
Yo-vidvan Sagura-hari.
Savaya Priyatamaschatma Yato na bhayam anvapi Iti veda savaya vidwan Yo vidwan sagurur hari
Savaya Priyatma-shloke.
Savaya Priyatamaschatma
Yatanavayam-bhakti.
Yato na bhayam anvapi
Ivera Savaya-vidvan.
Iti veda savaya vidwan
Yo-vidvan Sagura-hari.
Yo vidwan sagurur hari
Savaya Priyatma-shloke.
Savaya Priyatamaschatma
Yatanavayam-bhakti.
Yato na bhayam anvapi
Ivera Savaya-vidvan.
Iti veda savaya vidwan
Yo-vidvan Sagura-hari.
Yo vidwan sagurur hari. Okay, synonyms. Sa, he, vai, certainly. Priyatama, the most dear. Cha, also. Atma, super soul. Yataha, from whom? Na, never. Hayam, fear. Anu, little. Api, even. Iti, thus. Veda, one who. Oh, knows. Sa, he. Vai, certainly. Vidwan,
Vidvan,
educated.
educated.
Yaha,
Yaha,
he who.
Hiru,
Vidwan,
Vidvan,
educated.
Educated.
Saha,
Saha,
he.
He,
Guruhu,
Guru,
spiritual master.
spiritual master.
Harihi,
Hari,
not different from the Lord.
not different from the Lord.
Okay, translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear of material existence. This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul and friend of everyone. One who knows the secret is actually educated, and one thus educated can become the spiritual master of the world. One who is an actual bona fide spiritual master, representative of Krishna, is not different from Krishna. Please repeat after me. One who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear in material existence.
Not the least fear of material existence.
This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead
Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead
is the super soul and friend of everyone.
is the super soul and friend of everyone.
One who knows this secret is actually educated,
One who knows the secret is actually educated.
and one thus educated can become the spiritual master of the world.
One thus educated can become the spiritual master of the world.
One who is an actually bona fide spiritual master,
One who is actually a bona fide spiritual master,
representative of Krishna,
representative of Krishna,
is not different from Krishna.
is not different from Krishna.
Purport. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura says, Sakshad Haritwena Samasta Shastair Ukta Satha Bhavyata Eva Sadbhi. Spiritual master is described in every scripture as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master is accepted as identical with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he is the most confidential servant of the Lord. Kintu prabhurya priya eva tasya. The purport is that both the super soul and the individual soul are very dear to everyone. Everyone loves himself, and when he becomes more advanced, he loves the super soul also. A person who is self-realized does not recommend the worship of anyone but the super soul. He knows that to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead is easier than to worship various demigods under the influence of lust and desire for material enjoyment. The devotee is therefore always engaged in the loving devotional service of the Lord. Such a person is a true guru. In Padma Purana, it is stated, Shatkarma Nipuno Vipro Mantra Tantra Visharada Vaishnavo Guru Nasyad Vaishnava Swapako Guru. Even if a Brahmana is very educated in Vedic scriptures and knows the 6 occupational duties of a Brahmana, he cannot become a guru or spiritual master unless he is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, if one is born in a family of dog eaters, but is a pure devotee of the Lord, he can become a spiritual master. The conclusion is that one cannot become a spiritual master unless he is a pure devotee of the Lord. One who is a spiritual master in accordance with the above descriptions of devotional service is to be understood as the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally present. According to the words mentioned here, Gurur Harihi, consulting a bona fide spiritual master means consulting the Supreme Personality of Godhead personally. One should therefore take shelter of such a bona fide spiritual master. Success in life means accepting a spiritual master who knows Krishna as the only Supreme Beloved Personality. One should worship such a confidential devotee of the Lord. Ajnana Dhamarandhasya Ginanjana Sulakaya Chakshu Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakadamayam Darati Swaparantikam He Krishna Corona Sindho Dinabandha Jagapate Gopsha Gopaka Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sadevi Pranamami Hare Pre Vanchakalpatarubhyasa Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare I'll reread today's verse. One who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear of material existence. This is because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul and friend of everyone. One who knows the secret is actually educated, and one thus educated can become the spiritual master of the world. One who is an actual bona fide spiritual master, representative of Krishna, is not different from Krishna. So, in today's purport and today's text, we cover a few different topics. Firstly, what's mentioned is that those engaged in devotional service, they have no fear of this material existence. So, how do I know about this? So, to go along with the whole idea of this is because the Supreme Personality of God is a super soul in front of everyone, there's this very famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 529, which kind of echoes this mood, in which Krishna states that a person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities, the supreme Lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from the pangs of material miseries. Krishna is our dearmost friend and our dearmost well-wisher, and he's always wishing the best for us. And he's the controller of everything. He is the cause of all causes. So there's not really much need to fear if he's right behind you, wishing for your best. But to go a little bit more than just he's my friend and always wishing the best for me. He takes it a step further in Bhagavad Gita 9:13 and says that, O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, under the protection of the divine nature, they are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and exhaustible. So he says that they're under the protection of his divine nature, his eternal potency. And in the purport of this, Prabhupada mentions that being marginal potency, as soon as the living entity is freed from the control of material nature, he's put under the guidance of the spiritual nature. The guidance of the spiritual nature is called Daivi Prakriti, divine nature. So when one is promoted in that way by surrendering to the Supreme Person of God, one attains the stage of great soul, Mahatma. So how do we get to that point? How do we go from under the material nature to being under the protection of his divine nature, as he states, like these great souls are? What verse is that one?
Next verse.
Do you mind repeating that one?
Always chanting my glories and never my great determination. Bowing down before me, such souls are perpetually connected with me.
That one's beautiful. And to go along with that one, the basic one from 714, Daivi Heshaguna Mai Mama Maya Durataya Mameva Ye Praparyante Mayamitam Durantite. That this divine energy of mine, consisting in three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So he promises us various things like this, like Dear Kitanesha was saying, chanting the names, bowing down, doing all these things in connection. And it's like this verse from the 7th chapter states, surrendering ourselves, we'll be protected. We'll cross beyond that material nature. And we don't have to worry about failure because Krishna even gives us, how do you say? He even gives us other things. Okay, if you can't not do this, then at least do this. He even goes as far as saying that if you cannot follow the rules and the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me, because by working for me, you'll come to the perfect stage. So he says all these things, and if you fail, then at least you take birth in as like a demigod or an aristocratic family where you'll pick up right again. Uh, as Krishna famously says, Kanteya pratijanihi name bhakta panashati. O son of Kunti, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes. So in every circumstance, Krishna is trying to reassure us over and over that we have nothing to fear. That, okay, say you don't make it back to me this life. Okay, that's cool. You're going to pick up right where you left off, and I'm still going to be right beside you. I'm still there as Super Soul. I'm still doing everything for your ultimate good. I'll put you in certain circumstances that will help you detach from this material world and to focus on me. That may mean some pains, but it'll turn you towards me ultimately. And in the 11th canto, chapter 2, verse 37, it focuses a little bit more directly on this idea of fear, in which it is said that fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as a material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When a living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is affected by the potency of illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipful deity and as his very life and soul. So, right there, where does this fear arise from? It arises from us identifying with this body and the things that relate to that body. Because in the end, really, what do you really have to fear? Christian tells you that you can't be cut, you can't be burned, that there wasn't a time that you didn't exist, and there will never be a time that you don't exist. He tells you all these different things about who you really are. So you don't die, you don't get old, you don't get sick, you don't have any of these things. This all relates to this body and the circumstances with this body. Well, I got an exam this day. Oh, I'm behind on rent this time. Oh, my son this, my daughter that. All kinds of things we could worry about. But in reality, all this only pertains to this body in this life. Because once we get another body, it's going to be a whole nother set of anxieties and fears. Oh, now an animal, I was once a human. Now as an animal, I'm worrying, How am I going to get my food? Is that other animal or that person going to kill me? Where do I get my water at? Where is a safe place to rest? So each body has its own set of fears, its own set of fears. But it all has to do with the body. But we are beyond the body. When we identify with the body, all these fears and anxieties are going to constantly position. We're not thinking right. If you're thinking right, you realize that, you know what, I am not this body, I'm the soul. All these worries and all that are temporary, you know. And ultimately my worry should be, how do I get back home, back to God? Or how, but for even further than that, higher than that, how do I please him with all my activities? Of course, we got to be realistic. You should have certain concerns for your duty within this world. You know, if you're a parent, you should have concerns for your kids. If you're a husband, you should have concern for your partner, and so forth. But in the right perspective. And to go a little bit more into this fearlessness, I found in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:23-51, the purport says, Prabhupada says that how one awards fearlessness to a subordinate is mentioned in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. One who cannot get free from the clutches of death is dependent, and he should not become a spiritual master, nor a husband, nor a kinsman, nor a father, nor a mother, etc. It is the duty of the superior to give fearlessness to the subordinate, to take charge of someone, therefore, either as a father, mother, spiritual master, relative, or husband. One must accept the responsibility to give his ward freedom from the fearful situation of material existence. Material existence is always fearful and full of anxiety. So this material existence is always going to be full of different types of anxieties and fears. But when we receive this knowledge from the proper source, we lose that fear. But we have to receive it from the right source, a proper spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, one who actually knows the science of God. Otherwise, we'll be misdirected in so many different ways. But the proper spiritual master is come down on God's behalf in the disciplic succession, teaching this fearlessness, because you'll know the ultimate truth by what they're telling you. I think to go a little further with today's verse, where it says, one who knows the secret is actually educated, and one who thus educated can become a spiritual master of the world. I think we could all think of Prabhupada in that sense. Prabhupada is a description of today's verse by, he came over here. His name was literally Abhaya, meaning fearless. Abhaya Charan, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, fearless at the lotus feet of the Lord. So, he came overseas into an unknown world on his guru's behalf. His guru asked him to come over. And so he left everything and made it his mission, regardless of what that meant. He had practically no money with him. He didn't really know anybody in the U.S. He was in his older age, suffered a few heart attacks on the way on a boat, not even a cruise boat or anything. He came all this way, and I was thinking about the prayers that he wrote down. There's a decent amount, so I selected a group of them that I kind of feel like goes with this idea of just showing this trust he has in Krishna, because he knows him as his friend and his well-wisher. So in his prayers, Prabhupada says that, how will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I'm very unfortunate, unqualified, and the most fallen. Therefore, I'm seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it is up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message. So if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel gladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I'm just like a puppet in your hands. So if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance. Make me dance, O Lord. Make me dance as you like. So, no, it really shows he had no idea really what to expect in one sense, but he had full faith that Krishna has the ability to make him successful in executing his guru's actions. He came to the lowest and brought them to the highest platform. And he taught what the purport explains, that anyone who's a devotee and knows the science of Krishna can be a spiritual master regardless of their caste, race, etc. So you see so many people from Prabhupada became now gurus, people from all kinds of different backgrounds, whether their family were straight meat eaters and such forth, or they were hippies, or all kinds of different um, all kinds of different things. Now they're highly elevated spiritual leaders within the movement. And even if they're not gurus, all these people, even in the present, are preaching this mission and acting as still a spiritual master by instructing others in this service. Even in previous times, we can see that people like Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Mohammedan family, or Prahlad Maharaj, who was born in a demon family, even they became great spiritual leaders. So what? So Srila Prabhupada made that still true today and showed that it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter who you are. Even we even see in the Bhagavatam that a prostitute became a spiritual master. And to go with that pastime, it's described that Srila Bilva Mangala Thakur, a great Acharya of Vishnu Swami Vaishnav sect, in his household life was overly attached to a prostitute who happened to be a devotee of the Lord. One night, when the Thakur came to Chintamani's house in torrents of rain and thunder, Chintamani was astonished to see how the Thakur could come on such a dreadful night. After crossing a foaming river which was full of waves, she said to Thakur Bilva Mangala that his attraction for the flesh and bone of an insignificant woman like her would be properly utilized if it could be diverted to the devotional service of the Lord to achieve attraction for the transcendental beauty of the Lord. It was a momentous hour for the Thakur, and he took a turn towards spiritual realization by the words of a prostitute. Later on, Thakur accepted the prostitute as a master, and in several places of his literary works, he has glorified the name of Chintamani, who showed him the right path. So even further, we see that it doesn't matter one's past, it doesn't matter their gender, it doesn't matter your race, ethnicity, culture, caste, or anything. If you know the science of Krishna, then you qualify to spread this message to others. And by doing so, you'll become dear to Krishna himself. As Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita 1868 through 69, for one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. So we see that by acting on our behalf, we become very dear to Krishna because we're acting on his behalf. Krishna could easily have came and just liberated us all. Lord Chaitanya could have came and liberated everyone. But he's so merciful and so loving that he likes to have his devotees glorified. So he gives that for his devotees to do, to carry on the mission, to go about preaching and to deliver people. And doing that so dear because you're reconnecting people with Krishna. They've lost their relationship with Krishna, and now you're reconnecting them back to Krishna. You're helping take them out of the ignorance and from ignoring him to being able to reestablish that connection. So, in this way, what would you really have to fear? The Parameshwara, the Supreme Controller, is right behind you, wishing you the best and aiding you. You know he doesn't want you hurt. So whatever you're going through, whatever you're facing, is really out of his love. There's so many obstacles that we could have come to us within this lifetime. And we're always going to be faced with some type of obstacle in our lives. And we're going to have dramatic moments, or we're going to have blissful moments, and so forth as long as we're here. But ultimately, this is always Krishna teaching us different things and helping us in our for our ultimate benefit. We may face losses, we may face extreme stress, extreme anxiety, but each and every moment he's teaching us a different lesson, something that we haven't quite picked up yet. So everything's tailored to each individual person. We don't all go through the same exact struggles, face the exact same type of anxiety or stresses. Some of us have a higher anxiety than the other person. The other person may be, instead of internally having to face so much, in one sense, they're externally facing a lot. They're losing their house, their family, their business, whatever it may be. So in this way, Krishna is teaching us all to different degrees, whatever it is that we're needing to learn so that we could detach from this world finally. We've been here in the material world attached to all this broken glass, but we've yet to turn towards him, the diamond. So he's given us the opportunity to learn all this. And he sends down people constantly to worship him directly, especially, as mentioned in the purport today, about, what does it say? A person who is self-realized does not recommend the worship of anyone but the Super Soul. He knows that to worship the Supreme Personality of God is easier than to worship various demigods under the influence of lust and the desire for material enjoyment. So we see this in like bona fide traditions. They focus on the Lord and they reject anything else beyond the Lord. Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita mentions how those who worship demigods verily only worship me, but they do so indirectly. And he says that demigod worships for the less intelligent. Because you're going through a middleman for no reason. The Lord is the one sanctifying all your desires and this and that, but you're going through someone else who has to go to the Lord anyway to see if they can even grant you whatever it is that you're asking for. So in every tradition you see this, even in the Abrahamic traditions, you see them really focusing on worship of God. Moses, he focused on do not worship this golden cow, worship God. Jesus said, worship God. Even Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he says that quit worshiping all these other gods that you're worshiping. Worship God. There's only one God. This message isn't just in our tradition about this idea of there being one God, and that you shouldn't go through all these other things to go and get whatever it is you desire, because God fulfills all desires himself. Krishna fulfills all desires, whether that's material or spiritual. I mean, just to get what we got now, it's coming from him. Whether, back in the day, maybe we were even doing some illegal activities for enjoyment. Maybe it was something like drugs or such. But ultimately, that's still him sanctifying it. Not that he desires that for us, not that he wants us to experience all these things, but he's so kind that he fulfills our desires regardless. But a true guru will lead you to worship him and teach you fearlessness and how to attain that. Honestly, I don't really have too much more, so maybe we could open this up for a discussion. Perhaps. Yes, Arjuna Sarati.
So, you just brought up like Moses and stuff and how they were worshiping the golden calf and everything. And yeah, what's interesting about that story is, God just led them out of Egypt, which is what they were praying for all this time. That's what they wanted, right? This is what you wanted. He goes up to the mountain and he talks to God to like give them instructions. His face becomes radiant with the Lord's radiance and effulgence, so much so that when he comes down from the mountain, they're like afraid of him and like turning, and like that's when they were worshiping the calf. He just went up to the mountain and came back down, and they're already like completely lost their way when they asked to be led from, and that's why they're wandering, in the desert for 40 years, because God's like, no, you ain't been faithful, I give you everything you asked for. I fulfill my end of the bargain, and my dude just goes up to the mountain for a minute to chat with me, come back down, and you all are worship. And so like this is a very important metaphor, because I was kind of talking to Kirtaneshwara about this yesterday, about like how it's important to keep our spiritual momentum and keep moving. And we can be moving physically forward, but in our hearts, we can still be stuck in Egypt. Our mentality can still be stuck in Egypt, because that's all we know. And worshiping those gods. And so it really spoke to me when you talked about that, because that's something I'm kind of like working on in my spiritual life right now. And so I thought I'd share it.
It's interesting because, there's a point that, Prabhupada leaves and there's some people introduce so many nonsense things immediately, the Krishna conscious movement. So and immediately there's already deviations. So you have to be very chaste to the teachings. Yeah.
That's our position, right? We pray for exactly that. We get it, but then we still deviate. We still go, all right, let me create my own plans and go a different way, even if we know the other way is right. Kirtaneshwar?
You spoke about this one who knows the science of Krishna is qualified to be a guru. What does that entail? Because Rupa Goswami says, one has to control the 6 urges, then he's qualified to become guru to the whole world. And then, like we see that, Prabhupada was an expert in the scripture. And then there's so many different statements. Prabhupada says to be the guru, one should be, very well versed in scripture. And then we see at the same time, Gauranga Das Babaji was not so well versed. So what is the real qualifier?
Real qualifier.
I mean, we know we have to control our senses, but
yeah, I think that's a really good question. There's definitely a better answer than what I'll give, and I'm sure you already know the answer. But that's really good, because yeah, we do need to be in control of our senses, obviously. But the science of Krishna and Krishna consciousness is in one sense, knowing your eternal position and your relationship to Krishna, and not, what would you call that? Not going beyond that relationship in one sense, if that makes sense. Because if I go beyond that, now I'm thinking I'm this body, now I gotta enjoy my senses, this, that. But if I know that I'm a part and parcel of the Lord, and that everyone else is a part and parcel of the Lord, and that we have a loving relationship with the Lord, it doesn't really matter if you're literate. It doesn't really matter if you're well versed and you know all the scriptures and all that. But if you know that you have that relationship and you've developed that relationship and you're working on that relationship for Krishna's pleasure, then you're acting in Krishna consciousness. Is that good enough, or would you like to add to that?
No, I think that's good enough. Again, think of anything else, but I think there's an element of, like Lord Chaitanya says, become a guru by preaching the words of Gita.
And Srimad Bhagavatam.
And so, if we can just learn the Gita, then not that.
Yeah, if you could just learn the Gita, you could pretty much beat any argument.
First. So your hand went up slightly.
I don't know if you mentioned this already, but that first statement there about one who is engaged in devotional service has not the least fear in material existence just reminded me of that statement with Prahlad Maharaj saying, I don't have any fear of material existence myself, but I think that's where he says, but I'm afraid for all the other people who are, suffering. And then think,
take the token, you take the same. I shook my head when I told him he moved on.
woohoo!
Afraid for these fools and rascals. He moved on.
Yeah. So, it's inspiring as far as being engaged in devotional service and not fearing material existence. It's really inspiring to think about all the things that Prahlad Maharaj went through. How many times they tried to kill him directly and nothing happened. And so it's just a perfect example.
I was also really meditating on him during reading this verse in purport today, especially because I just watched the movie and all that about Prahlad and Nrsingadev, and I was just thinking, he's going through all these different trials, but he doesn't care. He's like, okay, you know what? God's got me. In every circumstance, he's chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He's being thrown into boiling oil, thrown off of a cliff, all these things, but still he's focused on, whatever happens, I know I'm not this body, and I know that God, Krishna, that he got me in all circumstances. Thank you for bringing that up. And you, Lolita.
Well, I was just wondering, because you were talking about Chintamani and how, she was a guru, and just about how it shouldn't matter what our past is, or, our caste or anything like that. But sometimes I see there seems to be kind of levels of discrimination among devotees, where I'll hear people say, oh, we don't want to preach to them, we don't want those kind of people here, or there's discrimination on who can be a bona fide teacher, and of course, to some degree, if they know, if they're repeating the words of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, then that should be bona fide, But I was thinking about Prahlad also, and how he was preaching to his classmates, right? And his classmates were legitimate demons, right? they in the movie they even had those teeth, right? But and so what do you say about that? Sometimes we see that this go on. What should we do about that? Or can we do anything about it?
Whoa.
Or am I putting you too much on the spot? I'm sorry.
Very good. That's a good question. Well, we all are struggling with our own, what would you call it? Own levels and understandings. Definitely, we have our own past conditionings or own past traumas or all these things, and even if we work on them, if we're not always aware of it, they could definitely come up in one way or another. Especially if we're not directly trying to attack those specific things. So we have those struggles and all that, but if we're aware of them, we should directly work on them and question ourselves: is this Krishna consciousness, or is this like, am I identifying someone with their own body, and am I identifying myself with my own body in doing so as well? Because that does happen. It's easy to be like, oh, this person that or this person that, but are you seeing them for who they are or what they do? Are you judging them based off their past and what they seem like now? Or are you judging them, or are you actually seeing their character? Because oftentimes, they may have a past. They may not look the best, but what is their character? They could be super bona fide spiritually, super qualified, super highly elevated. But still, regardless, people are going to judge. Even great personalities get judged. That you can't go and be a great personality without having some type of judgment. But as for what can we do, I think the best that we can do is for ourselves, be an example. Be an example and preach as an example of that. And two, if you have anybody under your guidance, try to properly lead them in that. The rest, it's not up for us to go up and correct other higher devotees and be like, you know what, you're Maya, Prabhu, or Mataji, like, sorry, but I'm gonna just say it as it is. It's not necessary for us to do. Be the proper Vaishnav with proper Vaishnav etiquette and be the example that other people could look up to.
I share this point that being guru is something that's very misunderstood, immensely misunderstood, because we always really get bewildered by this Diksha Guru thing, because we think that there's like this Diksha Guru is such a big deal, and it is a big deal. It should be honored as a big deal, but at the same time, we have to understand that the Diksha process basically applies to the Pancharatriki Marg. It applies to deity worship, and it applies to all those rules and regulations that go along with deity worship. That's why it's very strict. The Diksha Guru's position, all these things. And it's necessary. But the Guru, the Bhagavat Marg, the initiation into hearing and chanting, which is of the two the more important element of Krishna consciousness, that is done by hearing. So who you hear from is your guru, and who you hear from originally is initiating you into that. And that's why Srila Prabhupada told Vaikuntanath Prabhu, by reading my books, you're initiated. So, and it's just not understood. So the hearing process, like whoever's teaching you about devotional service, in a sense, that person is not that one is more important or less important than the other. And certainly the Diksha Guru is honored as the reciprocal for all that mercy and love. But the person who's teaching you about devotional service, that's the person who's really Krishna is speaking through to show you the way to come to Krishna. Ultimately, Krishna is the deliverer, but so, like, because the Diksha Guru is kind of has its position here, and it's kind of bewildering, and there's so much debate about it, but I mean, everybody can become guru by simply teaching people about devotional service. Because in the end, the person who really made you think about Krishna the most, that person, is giving you the most mercy.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good point. I mean, even in our own sampradaya, we see that it's not all just Diksha gurus. I mean, just within the previous acharyas that we've had, that's not all Diksha. Some of that's Siksha as well. So I think that's a good point, that it's really who are you getting this knowledge from in one sense. The Diksha Guru has his importance, but the Siksha Guru is equally as important and acts on that behalf, especially if they're more. Diksha Guru can be a Siksha Guru, but Diksha Guru is not always going to be present. So Siksha Guru oftentimes is the one teaching us and we're hearing from.
Yeah, I mean, like, Lord Chaitanya didn't, have a fire yajna for all the people initiating.
Yeah.
Shukadeva Goswami doesn't have a fire yajna for, Maharaj Parikshit. So there's no reformatory process in that. And Krishna says, Tad vidi pranipatina pariprashnena seveya, that, pranipat, one should fall down and one should serve the guru, but he doesn't explain there's this process of, this formal process. The formal process is there for the purification necessary for deity worship and for all the rituals, rites, and the process of practical devotional service. But ultimately, that's secondary to the process of hearing and chanting. So that's why both are considered equal manifestations of the Supreme. So, we should, and therefore, actually, every devotee, according to certain Gaudiya Vaishnava texts, every devotee is considered a guru, but not every devotee is worshipped in the same level as like Srila Prabhupada or your Diksha Guru and so forth. But an intelligent devotee makes distinction.
Thank you for that. All right, really quick. Otherwise, save it for breakfast.
Yeah. Okay, so do you guys know about Ekalavya? Yeah, from the Mahabharata. It reminds me of that a lot. He's from Mahabharata. He was a Shiksha disciple of Dronacharya, because he was a Sudra and he wanted to become the greatest archer in the world. And his dad's like, all right, you just kind of like the Knight's Tale, you can change your stars, boy, just go out to the woods. You're going to find this dude named Dronacharya. He'll set you up. And he finds Dronacharya, but he's teaching the Pandavas, and Arjuna throws a fit. He's like, no, you can't teach us alongside a Sudra. Like, it's kind of how Lalita was talking about, he's a Sudra. This is unacceptable. You promised that I was going to be the best archer and stuff. So Ekalavya goes off into the forest, feeling defeated. He got some clay. He made a statue of Dronacharya. He paid his obeisance to it every single day, and he practiced archery by himself with that murti. He was meditating every day, and there's a dog that's barking, and it's disrupting his meditation. So he starts to shoot his arrows into the dog's mouth, just so that it doesn't pierce anything. It just goes into his mouth and falls there until there's so many that it just opens his mouth wide and he's uninjured, that he can't bark. And then Dronacharya sees this dog later on. He has no idea old boy's still in the forest. And he said, who did this? Like, whoever did this is the greatest archer in the world. And that Ekalavya pops out and Arjuna throws a fit again, and it turns into this other thing I won't go into. But yeah, that's the power of Shiksha Guru. Like, he became the greatest archer in the world without even being a formal disciple. He was turned away even. And I always try to remember that when I find myself.
Thank you. Alright, Grantaraya Srimad Bhagavatam ki,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Yeah, I was just thinking, because like, obviously somebody spoke to